So this morning I was talking to my dad. We talk weekly, but today he and I were just shooting the breeze, and I was not feeling my best. I feel like I've been putting off recording videos and speaking into the camera because life be lifing, and I wasn't exactly sure. I didn't feel like I had anything profound to say, but something that I shared with him actually it actually encouraged me when he related back to me. The other day I was walking with a coworker and we were on this trail, and there were these trees with, I don't know, maybe fruit or seeds, something like that. They were like these circular things, and they looked kind of like Brussels sprouts. And she didn't know what they were. I didn't know what they were. And as we were walking, this other lady on the other side of us walking by was passing, and this thought just kind of dropped into my head. It was just like, ask that lady. Spoiler alert, she didn't know. But what was interesting is that I stopped this woman and asked her, hey, do you know what type of tree this is? And she didn't, but my friend she said something along the lines of I find it fascinating that you're able to talk to strangers. I responded to her, I was just like, I wasn't always like this. I didn't always possess this ability. And so when I said that to my dad, after having this whole long conversation about feeling like I wasn't properly prepared enough to share something on this platform or whatever, what I ended up saying was, sometimes when you're naturally good at something, you are at a disadvantage because you don't quite understand the reps it takes to become good at something. People who have to work at something have a different appreciation for the ability or the trade or whatever versus someone who's naturally good at it, because they technically don't really have to work that hard. There are things that I naturally do well and kind of forget the work that goes into it. For example, my friends saying that, they don't necessarily at this point in their life possess the capacity to just jump out there and talk to a stranger, whereas I have that capacity. I had to sit there and be like, dang, over here, when I was talking to my dad, I was kind of complaining about not being further along in a certain situation in my life. And it kind of reminded me of the age-old thing where you take a road trip and the kids in the back are just like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And it's just like, no, we're not there yet. It takes time to get to the destination. If you're asking, are we there yet? It should be clear that you're not there yet. So when I was talking to my dad, I remember saying something like, I was on the train, just meditating, and I felt like the Holy Spirit was like, open your eyes, because I had my eyes closed and I was listening to this worship music, and I saw something that kind of put me back. It took me aback because it wasn't what I anticipated seeing. And in that moment, I got frustrated because I was just like, I think the thought that I told my dad was literally like, God, are you finished or are you done? Why is this consistently in my face? And then I was listening to a message that encouraged me, and it made me go back to the thought that I had this morning, which was sometimes what the young woman in the message said, she was like, sometimes your Jericho isn't necessarily the walls coming down, but it's in how you respond to whatever the strategy that God has given you for the walls to come down. Getting caught up in the strategy could be the very work that God is doing. The wall is kind of like a means to an end, but how you process what's happening is really the work that's happening. The way that relates back to me and how it could relate to you is when I opened my eyes in the train and saw what I saw and had this kind of knee-jerk reaction of like, yo, are you finished? Are you done? The way I responded to that told me everything I needed to know about me and the fact that clearly God's not done with me and there's still more work he's doing in me, because based off that response, I received that in a negative way and I didn't have to, which means that there is still more pruning to do. There's still more refining that needs to happen, which is, hey, all the refinement is necessary. I completely bypassed the fact that me having the capacity to say hello to a complete stranger is an ability that I now possess that I didn't have before, that my friend at this point doesn't possess. And I think in that small moment that reassured me, because it wasn't like this grand thing, but it made me feel like, okay, so maybe this part of my life is not like where I'd like it to be, but I'm also not where I was. And that's something to be grateful for, something to be appreciative of. Me getting to a point where I could speak to a complete stranger didn't come from me not talking to strangers. Me getting comfortable at work, speaking to people and having small talk, which I hate. That is a process. It's not a one and done thing. If you're asking, are you finished? Are you done? Then that should be a clear indicator that the work has not been completed in you and that the work is still working on you. So let the work on you and let the work for you, because all things work to good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So, yeah.